while back we got a kind of cute little plastic sailboat that was in a blind bag, and I decided this week to redo it into a nice piece of art. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, I was sitting here trying to figure out what to do for video for today, and I decided I'm going to do a remake on this little sailboat that came in our last blind bag opening. And I wanted to put it on a base, and I looked through my wood stash, and I have this, I think they call them a flag. They're just a wooden shape that you can buy pre-cut at the craft store. You can use any shape you want. This one I had painted white, obviously for a project at some point in time, and never finished, or because I have a whole bunch of them painted like this. And we're going to paint over it again, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to start by getting any oils or anything that might be on our sailboat off. We're going to do that with just some isopropyl alcohol on a cotton ball. I want to make sure there's nothing on there that might prevent the paint, excuse me, the paint from sticking. This will take off any oils off our fingers, any dust, any stuff that might have got on it in manufacturing or in packaging or just sitting in a box waiting for me to do something with it. I'm going to put it on here. This is just some of that blue tape, that blue stuff that you buy to put posters on the wall. It's still wet, so. And I'm going to let that rubbing alcohol dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to get out some, I think just some white paint and do a base of white. And then we can get creative with how we decorate it. So I'll be right back when this is dry. All right, I just have some white craft paint here and a brush. And see if this will stay on there. And I'm literally just going to give this a coat of white paint. I might come back and give the sail a second coat. Yeah, it looks like I'll have to. Because I want to cover up the orange and yellow, because that won't go with my color scheme I want to use. But I'm even covering that brown just so that I can start with a white base and have a blank canvas to work from. So I am going to get a couple of coats of white paint on here, get them dry. When I've got a nice white base to work with, I'll come back and we can start working on a design. All right, my white base paint is dried. So now let's add some detail. We're not going to add a lot of detail to our sailboat today. We're just going to make this pretty simple. It's more about how to do the process than the specific decorations. And what I've got here is just a gray, and this is a Rainy Day Gray by Anita's. I've got a flat brush. I'm going to try and do this without making a mess. I just want my hull of my little sailboat to be gray. I'm trying to keep, like I said, I'm trying to keep this pretty basic. I might go back and paint more details after this is assembled. Depends on how long this takes to do. I'm running kind of late because I, quite frankly, couldn't figure out what I wanted to do today. All right, now I have a very thin brush, and I thought what I would do, so I would avoid doing what I just did. I'll clean that up in a sec. I'm going to get the mast done. Now, how much damage did I do? This paint I don't think was quite dry. I don't think my white was quite dry. So I will touch up that spot where I knocked the paint loose. And once that paint is dry, I'll come back and we'll attach it to our board. All right, my paint has finally dried. I'm having issues getting paint to dry today, this week. So I need to glue this to my display board. And a lot of times I would use E6000, but today I'm using, even though I hate super glue, absolutely hate super glue, I am using super glue because I've been having a lot of headaches and the E6000 fumes will just make that worse. So I'm going to get this placed and hopefully this will adhere. I'm going to let this set up, and when this gets set up we can add some texture to our base, and then we can start painting our base and getting this ready to display. But it's pretty good. Put it in kind of a cool angle and I'll be back when this glue is set. Alright, our super glue is set up enough that I'm comfortable going ahead and adding some texture to my base. And what I've got is just some caulking. We use this a lot for different things. I like it because it's paintable and it dries pretty quickly at 2 hours and I can paint over it. You get it in the home improvement section. But I'm just using a toothpick. I put some out on a parchment because I wasn't sure how hard this was going to be to scoop out of there, to get it squeezed out. And now I'm just going to create not a lot of texture. I want a little texture at the front of my sailboat. And yeah, I know it's not going to be totally realistic. I stay away from boats of all kinds, so I'm going by what I saw on online for like model ship dioramas and that kind of stuff. Way out in the back. And you could just make this smooth if you wanted to. I just thought it would be kind of fun to have a little bit of choppy texture around my ship. It doesn't take a lot. So I'm going to just continue to put this on until I have some good texture around my ship, my sailboat, and let this dry for about 2 hours, and then I'll come back and we can start painting our base. Alright, my caulking is dry and I've got just a little bit of texture on there. So I've got some bright blue paint from Apple Barrel. Some of the paints I'm using today are out of my paint stash and some are ones that Plaid sent me. I'll try to remember on the blog to tell you which are which. But this, I'm just going to kind of use a flat brush and just paint the surface. I'm just using my brush and pushing against where I put that caulking so that I leave that white. And I don't want a really thick coat of paint. I just want just a little bit. And remember, there will be pictures on the blog post that's associated with this video, and the link to that will be in the description box underneath the video. So usually it's a little easier to see some of these details in the photos if I can get a decent photo. Sometimes the camera doesn't cooperate with me there either, and I don't know it until too late. So I am going to make sure I've got this paint scrunched up against there, and then I'm going to let this dry, and we're going to add at least 1 or 2 more colors of paint just to give it a little more depth, and then we'll paint the edges and move on to putting a finish on this. So I'll be back in just a second with another color of paint. Alright, that blue paint has dried, so now I've got out some Cayman blue. This is a little bit more of a turquoisey color. I'm trying to vary my blues so that it gets a little more interest. So I'm going to put a little bit of that in here. And I think I can probably add a couple of colors of blue now. I've got a whole bunch of brushes over here. I also have this blue. This is island, this is actually island green, but it's kind of a bluish green color. Oops, my phone is not on silent. A little of this around. And then I'm going to add just a tiny amount of navy blue, which is very dark. Trying to locate a really tiny brush for this one. By varying the colors of blue here, we're getting some depth to our water. And I'm going to touch up a few areas with the paint off camera and then let this dry. When this paint is dry, we can come back and paint the edges of our board. All right, I want to, in the end, paint the edges with this brushed metal paint in brushed gold. But because most metallic paints are somewhat translucent, I like to put a coat of something else under them. And today I have picked Apple Barrel's Golden Yellow, Golden Sunset, which I'm pretty sure I was looking all over for a week or so ago for a project and couldn't find it. And I picked it right up today. So what I'm going to do, I've got a very small, somewhat stiff brush. And I am just going to paint, very carefully paint the edge. I've got holding my brush at the bottom, so that if I make a mistake, it'll go hopefully onto the bottom, not onto my ocean. And I am going to go all the way around with one coat of this and let that dry. When that's dry, I'll be back and we will put our coat of gold paint on. So I'll be right back. All right, now that that is dry, I've got out my brushed metal in brushed gold. Now I've got some off to the side. And once again, I'm just going to take my brush, because that color is very similar that I put underneath. This will only take one coat of the gold paint, and it will look like nice and sparkly. So I am going to go all the way around the base. No use having you watch me do that. That would be pretty boring. And once this is dry, we can put a clear finish on and then see how this looks. All right, all of my paint has dried, so I'm just going to put a coat of satin Mod Podge on this. It'll be a quick and easy coat. I'm actually going to use it straight out of the lid, because if I do contaminate, I can just wipe the lid off with a paper towel. Normally I would pour some out, but I don't have anything convenient to pour it out onto. And also I find that the stuff in the lid, on the lid, is a little thicker, and it makes a nicer coat on something like this. So I'm just going to coat the entire, the sides, the top, the whole boat. And once this is dry, we will take a look at our finished sailboat diorama. Be right back. Well, here is our finished little sailboat diorama, or whatever you want to refer to it as. I think it turned out really cute. Be sure and check the blog post for photos, and I'll try to go into some detail. I have kind of played with a couple of different ideas on what to do with this little sailboat. Kind of wish I had two of them, because I had a couple more ideas, at least one more idea I'd really like to try, but I decided this would be the most fun, and I love how this turned out. I can't wait to see how it looks on a table in the dollhouse. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see for future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, be sure and hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up my next video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.